And we're back. I'm your host, BKP. Good morning from the office. We're North Georgia's only live online morning show. Now, don't forget, let me give you all the information here of how to contact the show. 706-889-9700. You can send me a text message, chief@fetchernews.com, and chief@fetchernews.com, and all the social media ways you can contact us. Now, I'm going to, at 9:30, we're going to get around 9:30. I want to finish up my opinion on the General Motors announcement. And I want to finish up my opinion on that. And I also want to, let me go to this real quick, okay? I want to finish up my opinion on that, and then I want to, at 9:30, I will get into my interview with Matt Gutler, Representative Matt Gutler. Now, many of you maybe chimed in because, you're pro-Second Amendment and you wanted to hear about constitutional carry, and we didn't get to what you wanted to hear. And I want to be very clear, I am pro-Second Amendment. There's some things, though, I do things in front of it. So if you got upset because I think there's some bills that need to be in front of it, or some things that need to be in front of it right now, stick around for 9:30 and I'll explain why. General Motors says it plans to cut production, closes plants, layoffs workers. General Motors says it's going to cut production. Lean and agile it will become. Detroit-based automaker has been in and out of dire financial straits for nearly a decade. Will end the production of the Chevy Cruze, Impala, and the all-electric Volt. They're ending the Volt. That was the future that they were going to go back. Remember when we loaned them all the money and we changed the way, give me number one up there. We changed the way that we loaned them money. We changed the way that bankruptcy was. We wrote some bankruptcy laws just for them in New York, just so they can go under the cover of night and claim bankruptcy and cash for clunkers. And everything we did for them, they're not forever grateful, was under the guise that they were going to go home and retool and produce the future automobiles for us. And the Volt is the reason they drove that, to sell us. Cadillac XTS and Buick LaCrosse, but only in the United States. Cadillacs will not while not entirely popular in the United States, are among GM's biggest sellers worldwide, particularly in China. GM will shutter at least 3 production plants, okay? The New York Daily News adds that in terms of workforce reduction, GM also plans cut 15% of its 54,000 salaried employees. Okay? Around 6,700 line workers in the United States and Canada will be at risk of losing their job. But the United Auto Workers suggested Monday that layoffs, furloughs would be discussed in upcoming contract meetings. Now, my question is, all right, my question is, CNN reports that the company said the plan would make it more efficient, saving $6 billion a year by the end of 2020. GM said its slimmed down production plan would allow it to share technology across all of its vehicles and reduce the amount of time workers it takes to build cars. This seems like a different, they wrote a different script. It seems like something that I don't know, just comes to mind. How about this? 5 years ago, okay? U.S. government says it lost $11.2 billion in General Motors bailout. Now, let me say this to you and let me explain. And I know you don't like it when I explain, Lucy, okay? But let me explain, Lucy. You don't like it, all right? Go to picture 2. This would be GM. GM to shut down production of 5 plants. Okay, 5 years ago, U.S. government says it lost $11.2 billion on GM bailout. This is from Eric Beach of Reuters. Okay, now I just want to say this in the kindest way. Do you realize out there when the government says it lost, the government didn't lose it to nothing. They didn't lose a damn thing. You lost $11.2 billion on GM bailout. You are out the money. That's right. I get so tired of the way, this is what's wrong with reporting. If you wrote a list of what's wrong with reporting, it should say U.S. government reports the taxpayers lost $11.2 billion in GM bailout. That's what it should say. But if it did, you would realize, and you say, well, you're making that out of a headline? Yes, I know how they do it. The government says it lost. No, U.S. government reports taxpayers lost $11.2 billion on GM bailout is the way the headline should be read. Washington, D.C., Reuters, the U.S. government lost $11.2 billion on its bailout of General Motors, more than the $10.3 billion the Treasury Department estimate it sold its remaining GM shares in December, according to the government report released on Wednesday. The $11.2 billion loss includes a write-off in March of the government's remaining $826 million investment in old GM. The quarterly report by Treasury Watchdog said the U.S. government spent about $50 billion to bail out GM as a result of the company's 2009 bankruptcy, which we allowed. We put bondholders behind the union. Yeah, we restructured bankruptcy, how it works for these people here. They're forever grateful. The 11.2 includes the, U.S. government spent $50 billion in bailouts as a result of the company's 2009 bankruptcy. The government's investment was converted to a 61% equity stake. So our own auto manufacturer is closing. And the Detroit-based automaker plus preferred shares and loans. Treasury whittled down its GM stake through a series of stock sales starting in November 2010, with the remaining shares sold December 13, 2013. At the time of December sale, Treasury put a total loss at $10.3 billion, but said it did not expect any significant proceeds from the remaining $826 million investment in old GM. The report of the Office of Special Inspector General for the Troubled Assets Relief Program. There is a sound from the past. There is a blast from the Troubled Assets Relief Program, TARP. The goal of Treasury investment in GM was never to make a profit, but to help save. Whoa, wait a minute. I'm sorry, I'm just caught off guard. The goal of the Treasury investment in GM was never to make a profit, but it's all about the bottom line. That's what GMC said. GM, General Motors, lean, mean, fighting machine. But to help save America auto industry, and by any measure, that effort was successful, Treasury Department spokesman Adam Hogg said. The U.S. bailout of GM Chrysler, which received about $12.5 billion, saved 1.5 million jobs in the United States, according to the Center of American Automotive Research. All right, we're going to leave it there. This goes on. That was 5 years ago. I have said every day on this show, not every day, but I have said from time to time on this show, did you really believe GM paid us back, the taxpayers? Did you really believe at any time they were going to be tried, true, and blue to us? Why they were going to, for the good of the country? Now, General Motors in the last 3 years, let's remember something. Obama put the GM in place. Well, not the one today. Wait a minute. You got to understand, that company right there is Obama's attempt at private industry. That's Obama's failed attempt to run a business. Remember, we pushed the old GM out. You know, that guy that flew the thing in here, the private jet? No, no, no. You flew the jet in, you're out. It just looked bad. I don't care. It looked bad. You're out. We got a new guy. He's a friend of Obama's. He lives on 34th and 9th in Chicago, South Side. Yes, he met him when he was a community organizer. They always said they can run a car manufacturing corporation worth billions one day. I say that jokingly. It's the only way to get through sometimes. Okay? This is Barack Obama's attempt at private industry, which government motors of taking over, government socialists taking over a major corporation. It failed. These are Obama's people that they put in. Oh yeah, for the last 5 years, these are Obama's people that they put in. These were hand-picked people to put in. Okay? It's a disaster. 3 years ago, they could have come to Barack Hussein, and said, Mr. President, we need to talk. We got to cut the Volt thing out. It didn't work. It was a bust. It sizzled like electricity. So they could have come to Obama 3 years ago and said, look, we need to retool factories. That's what they should have done. They should have taken these factories 3 years ago. It started retooling to make trucks, to make the SUVs they say are more profitable, to make, but not close. And even at the risk of the bottom line, God forbid, maybe they should close the manufacturing plants around the world and bring those jobs back and build those vehicles in our plants. I know, you're telling me I don't understand world trade. You're telling me I don't understand. You're telling me that I don't get it. Why, it's too big for me. I'm not bright enough to catch on. The wall back here doesn't say my graduation from Yale, Harvard, Columbia. I understand. I'm not smart enough to understand all of these big deals that go on with these corporations. Let me tell you what I am smart enough to figure out. It's Ohio and Michigan. Let me tell you what else I know about. Is they're trying to do everything to crush Ohio. Republicans have done too well. Trump is doing too well in Ohio. And that's got to be stopped immediately. And then there's Michigan. Michigan went red last time. It could do it again. What if people are working there when they go to vote? Because they talk about the people that did not cross over and vote for Republicans in the midterm. They've never, that I know of, talked about the enormous amount of Reagan Democrats, the Trump Democrats that voted for him in Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Michigan, now in Minnesota and Wisconsin, and they will again. They are manufacturing. My guess, I'm going to take a little break, they are manufacturing, is my opinion, a recession. So let's go through here. I got number one. Let's go to number one just to recap. Number one, General Motors is going to shut down these facilities. You see that. And 4:05 in the morning, they are jumping through the roof, praising about it. Number two, you can see that GM to shut down 5 plants. And let's go to, I'm going to go through all of my, before I make my final statement. CNN at 4 a.m. this morning. This was at 4 a.m. Eastern time. The very first graphic on the screen, number 11, major cuts at GM. Okay. 4 a.m. this morning, first graphic on CNN screen. Okay. Then they clip to another one. They show a manufacturing plant, go to 13. And the reason I show you these clips is this is what they do at 4 a.m. in the morning. This is what they start with, okay? Yes, I understand the climate change. We'll talk about that in a minute. And Trump is a climate change denier. And we will talk about the border. The reason I'm interested in this is because then at 5 a.m. this morning, the very first graphic, I want you to see this for a reason, because they're in cahoots. They're trying to set up, the deep state is trying to bring on a recession, okay, and get your consumer confidence. It took me a while to get there, but you got to understand, if they can do this, let's go to number 29. This is MSNBC, 5 a.m. They come on at 5. They got, at 4 a.m., they got a show called Lion Brian Williams or something like that at 4 a.m. It replays from the night before. Because if you didn't hear the lie the first time at 11, they'll let you hear it again at 4 a.m. But 5 a.m. is when early start on MSNBC comes on. Their very first graphic, you can look down the bottom corner, 5 a.m., GM to cut more than 14,000 jobs. That was the first thing. Create the recession, okay? Create the recession. And then I think I'm about done with the GM. Let's go to number 42. Look for more car manufacturers, factories to close. That's Axios participating. Yesterday, the President of the United States came out and he said he called the head of GM and he said, no, you need to figure something out. The American people have been too good to you. Now, I have been in this closed capsule here, okay? And I do have some websites I look at between the breaks. But right now, I'm not hearing a press conference from Bernie Sanders. I'm not hearing a press conference from Elizabeth Warren. I'm not hearing a press conference from Beto O'Rourke that claims he may run against the president. I'm not hearing a press conference from Schumer, House Democrats. Nowhere am I hearing Democrat outrage over losing jobs. Now, the Democrat outrage is at the border over people that are not Americans, that do not have a job, that's trying to get across a border illegally to take advantage of our benefits. That's where the Democrats' manufactured outrage is at the border. This here, they're complicit. You ever hear the old word complicit? They're complicit with this, right? Where is the outrage today from Democrats? I'm going to tell you something. If car manufacturers were closing back in the 50s or the 60s, let's say the 60s, even the 70s, if car manufacturers were closing in the 70s, Democrats would have press conferences all day screaming and yelling why they're closing. And we need to do something. Where's the Democrat outrage? It's manufactured at the border. Something's bad wrong. There's no manufacture. The Democrats, why do they enjoy or give the impression that they support you losing your job? What's wrong with this picture? They're okay with this. They will not bring good news. They want to squash consumer confidence. They want to squash this economy. And I do think the deep state's helping, because I think what they'd like to do is send this economy through interest rates and things like this. Corporations can hang on a couple years, and they'd like to maybe send this economy in the tank if they have the power. I'm telling you, just so Trump would have to run in a recession? Are they really that deviant that they would nosedive our economy and not care if you lost your job just so they could take over? I'm your host, BKP. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back. Robert Mueller, my God, would they shut up? All they did this morning, I couldn't get over it. Paul Manafort lied. Okay, damn it, move on. So he lied. Who cares? Did we really land on Mars? Or are we somewhere out on Area 54, 51, 58, 92, hike? I don't know. I'm just having fun. Take us to break and we'll come right back.